Do you know of a stellar leader or an outstanding organization that deserves a proper shout-out? Nominate them for IBJ's awards. From 40 in their 40s and Women of Influence to Nonprofit and Healthcare Excellence Awards, we're celebrating rising stars, seasoned leaders, and organizations making a difference. Discover which programs are accepting nominations now at ibj.com/nominate.
This is the IBJ podcast for the week of April 13th, 2026, brought to you by Taft. I'm your host, Mason King. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Here are a few tidbits that the Indianapolis Indians want you to know this season. When it comes to professional sports in Indianapolis, the minor league baseball team is older than the Indianapolis 500 and has lapped both the Pacers and the Colts at least once. Likewise, Victory Field, which remains one of the great jewels in minor league baseball, is now older than Market Square Arena and the Hoosier/RCA Dome when they were taken down. And there's no reason to fear for Victory Field's fate. The Indians have been profitable every year for many decades, with the sole exception of 2020, and are always at the top or near the top of the minor league for attendance. Team operations had been under the control of the Schumacher family for many decades before 2024, when longtime executive Randy Lewandowski took over as president and CEO. The primary mission, as he puts it, is to put butts in seats while making sure those seats and the rest of the ballpark are pristine. Great players come and go, so the marketing pitch needs to focus on the Indians as an experience. Lewandowski is our guest this week to talk about the team's revenue streams and the challenge of losing your most marketable players just as they're hitting their strides. He also discusses his career in college baseball, how he found a position with the Indians organization in 1994, and then cut his teeth as director of operations at what was then the brand new Victory Field just a few years later. Here's our conversation. It's my pleasure to welcome to the podcast Randy Lewandowski, President and CEO of the Indianapolis Indians. Thanks for taking some time off and coming to the studio today.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
I'm a little late with the congratulations. I want to note that you were chosen as the Minor League Baseball Executive of the Year for 2024. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So this is an award that is given by other minor league executives, I take it?
Yeah, I would say probably other minor league executives, also Major League Baseball weighs in. And really it's a nice recognition for me, but it ends up, it's really about, it's an organizational award. And it represents, I think, how well our ball club is respected throughout the industry, how well we perform, and it's a testament to our entire staff. So I happen to be the front person who gets to be up on the stage to accept that award, but it's really on behalf of our staff, our board of directors, and just the organization as a whole.
How many minor league teams are there?
There are 120.
That's a lot.
And that is a reduction from 160 pre-pandemic. It is not necessarily aligned or because of the pandemic, but there are some things that happened around that time where the minor leagues were pared down from, we'll say, 160 to 120.
Okay. Now, among the many reasons for the award included this tidbit. In 2024, the Indians averaged 8,405 attendees per game, which led minor league baseball, while attaining record-level revenue figures for the third consecutive year. Can you ballpark what your revenue was?
In general, probably then in 24 high teens. We'll budget just over 20 million this year, so okay. That would be my guess. And we base everything from our perspective. Attendance is our barometer. Revenue, we're a for-profit business, but for all intents and purposes, our goals are strictly based around attendance. Everything else flows from there. And what makes up that money is going to be our concession sales and merchandise and corporate sales and some other ancillary figures. But attendance drives it all. We call them butts in seats. If there's butts in seats and we're doing well from that perspective, everything else, the well will flow. And that's how we gauge ourselves.
So what I took from the release was that if you looked at total attendance over a 14-year period, so that would have been 2011 to 2024, the Indians were the overall attendance leader in minor league baseball.
Correct.
How do you do it?
Well, I think the core tenet of what we're about is we're in a service industry, so it's about customer service. And I think anytime we make decisions, whether it's about the ballpark, whether it's about pricing, whether it's about anything we're going to do, our fans are always we pretend they're at the table with us, because that's what drives us. And we don't have media rights and any of those other kinds of things like what I would call the major league sports do. It's granular. It's, as I mentioned earlier, butts and seats, and it all flows from there. So our fans are super important to what we do, and then that becomes a customer service proposition. We're hospitality, tourism, baseball, but it's how we serve those fans. And that's, I think, the key to our success. We're genuine, I think, in how we treat our fans, our corporate partners, and everybody else that we interact with. And we hold ourselves to a high standard, whether that's in how we serve those constituents and those fans, but also in how we present ourselves, how we act, how we fit into the sports landscape in Indianapolis. And all that just kind of fits together as a bit of our mantra. It's customer service.
So when we were growing up, because you're from actually you grew up in Fort Wayne. I grew up here in Indianapolis.
Yep.
The baseball that we saw was the Reds. We saw the Reds on Channel 4.
Mhm.
But Indianapolis was not a baseball town. And so it's really fascinating to me that as a minor league baseball town, Indianapolis has the most devoted fans that you would ever find.
Certainly. Some people will say that's due to our market size, though, I mean, there's some truth to that when you look across the DMAs in minor league baseball. But I would say Indianapolis has a long history of baseball. There were probably many opportunities way back in the past where maybe a major league franchise could have been born or brought to Indianapolis. That will never happen now with territories. And you mentioned Cincinnati, the Chicago team, St. Louis. There's too much overlap in that regard. But I would say long history, great fan base. We consider ourselves part of the community. Again, we've been around since the franchise as it's known now has been around since 1902. That longevity gives us a leg up on everybody because we've been around, and baseball is a generational game, and it's passed down from grandfathers to fathers to sons, and grandmothers to mothers to daughters, and that gives us, I think, like I said, a leg up on how we can operate. We call ourselves, our tagline right now is Indy's original home team, and that's true because we've been around longer than anybody else, and maybe not at the highest level, but at a very high level, both on the field and off.
Okay. So IBJ sports columnist Mark Monteith wrote a season preview a few weeks ago. I saw one of the pegs for the season was Connor Griffin,
Yes,
19-year-old shortstop who was starting the season, at least with the Indians, to get some experience against AAA pitching. How's that going?
He's not with us any longer.
Really?
5 games, shortest stint ever for the top-rated prospect. But that's interesting, and I can go on, and if you give me a minute, I'll explain.
Yeah.
Tons of hype, nationally, locally. We don't get tons of local sports coverage because of who we are and how we fit, but we get some. But that got everybody's attention. It's the number he was considered. And there was no doubt about it, the number one minor league prospect in all of baseball. Every publication that follows and ranks all of those things. And there was some question whether he would even come to AAA out of spring training. He was going to be given an opportunity in spring training to win a job with the major league club. There's lots of reasons, and I won't bore your listeners with, because I don't know all the ins and outs, but we got him. He was awesome. He's probably one of the most mature 19-year-olds that we have ever come across as an organization. We don't see many 19-year-olds, if ever, anyway. But media day, first one out, spends the most time, knows what's going to happen. We had a 3-game homestand to start the season in late March. We go on the road, and after game 2 in Columbus, Ohio, he gets the call from Pittsburgh, and there's various reasons up in Pittsburgh of why they needed him up there. They need his athleticism. He's dynamic. He just signed a long-term contract, 9 years for $140 million, and he was in our backyard 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it also then lends itself to the fact that you won't see us promote our players very much because it's very transient. And that, if there's ever the best example of that, that is it. If I heard from anybody in the 2-week run up to the season when Connor was going to be on the Indianapolis Indians and be a part of our ball club, business partners, friends, family. How long is he going to be there? I said, well, you probably need to buy a ticket pretty quick because we don't know. And we had a similar situation 2 years ago with Paul Skeens. Now, it's a little different between an everyday position player and a pitcher, where a pitcher is stretched out. It's every 5 days when he's going to pitch. With a position player, you're playing every day. Now, I won't tell you that their paths were the same or like, because they weren't. But that was the same question we got with Paul Skeens. No doubt the number one prospect in the minor leagues. He was just biding his time. They were limiting his innings, much different. With Griffin, he's 19. And how was he going to progress? You can't really tell how he progressed in the 5 games that he played with us. There was a bigger need in Pittsburgh for his skill set. It will be a challenge for him in the major leagues, being a 19-year-old player playing against grown men and learning how to adapt. But they do believe he is a much different talent and person to be able to handle those pressures that are going to come with that, because he's being pumped up as the savior for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's much like what we would have experienced here with Peyton Manning way back in the day, or Andrew Luck in Indianapolis with the Colts. This is just different, that Indianapolis for him is a stop on the way to stardom, we hope, in Pittsburgh. So that there's some of the crazy nuance of being a minor league team in a major league city and why we focus on what we do. We will talk about Connor Griffin. He's now an alum. We can count him as an alum, even though it's only 5 days. But really, at the end of the day, it's about what we provide at Victory Field more than as the players on the field, because it's so transient.
Yeah, you totally anticipated my question, which is how difficult is it to run an organization when it's virtually guaranteed that your best players, who in other situations would be like the face of the franchise, will leave?
It took me my 33rd season, and early on, it took me a long time to understand that the baseball is a part of who we are. I mean, we're a professional baseball team, but to not market the players, but just market the game and the nostalgia and the things that go with the game. And then that's also why we've doubled down on why Victory Field was so important to our organization's growth and health and everything else, and the renaissance of downtown. There's so many things that go into what Victory Field is, and how important it's been to our franchise, but also to the city.
Yeah, and this is the 30th season?
We are celebrating our 30th anniversary of Victory Field, and when I tell people that Victory Field is now 5 years older than both Market Square Arena and the RCA Dome ever were, people can't believe that.
That blew my mind a little bit. I remember when I was a kid reading about in some local Indianapolis magazine, I don't think Indianapolis Monthly was around yet, just about how Luger set into motion the building of a Market Square Arena. I mean, it was like my arena until I was seemingly in my 30s, and I had no idea that it was less than 30 years old when we knocked it down.
Yeah. And it just shows our age, Mason, I think, a little bit too, that we're having these kinds of conversations. But it is. And I think the best compliment that we get or can get is that people walk into Victory Field, and I've heard it already this season. We're only, as we record this, 5 or 6 games into our home season. But when we bring people in, both locally, our core fans, people who have never been here before, or baseball industry people. Here's an example. We hosted the Minor League Baseball Business Summit. It's a fall meeting where think of a convention where everybody gets together, you share ideas and seminars, and we hosted a reception at the ballpark. And a couple comments that people made. One, they couldn't believe that at the time we just finished our 29th season, because this was last October. To hear that from your industry peers, the next morning at breakfast, that we were just, it's a common breakfast at the hotel, and I had somebody ask me, hey, what did you do to prepare for that event last night? It was like 1,000 or 2,000 people. And I said, what do you mean? He said, it was so clean, it was spotlight. I said, well, that's what we do every day. But that's our expectation, is to maintain that building and that facility at the highest standard, because we have to, because of the competition within our market. We have the most incredible venues anywhere in the country, and we need to fit in with that or stand out amongst those. And to hear that from our industry brethren, that means a lot. And then just from our fans, that they can't believe that the ballpark is 30 years old, that it looks almost brand new. And it feels brand new. That's the beauty of it. And we get into some of the improvements we've made and everything else, but we want it to be comfortable, safe, and secure. And I think we've done a really good job of that.
If the marketing focus is so squarely on the experience, on, summer nights, great view of downtown, immaculate facility, the crack of a baseball bat. Is it even important to have a winning team?
It helps. We've scuffled here early in this season, and it's just, a little bit in the office. It just feels better when you win, but most people won't know that last year we had the best overall record in our division. We have this weird setup where we play halves in minor league baseball because the rosters are so transient. You don't want to feel like you get buried early in the year when your team's probably not playing as well or whatever else, but that's a whole other story. But it matters, but it doesn't matter. It's a weird conundrum. It just makes you feel better within the office, and when you can talk about the team and certain guys and everything else, and especially in a market, again, we're chasing Super Bowls and NBA Finals and all those other things. And whether people know or care if we win the Governor's Cup, which is our league championship, or go to Vegas for the AAA championship, we strive for it. We push the Pirates that we want to have a good competitive team because of the market that we're in. So there's all those things that come into play, but it's not our driver. But it is better if you are winning. It just makes you feel better.
Could there ever be a circumstance when the Pirates want to call up a player who's doing great, but then you get up on the phone and say, I think the stats are pretty good, but I don't think he's ready?
I would tell you, I would say that about Connor Griffin. But no, they're not going to call and ask that question. That's another unique thing about our business model, is that for the product, which in this case, when I say product, are the players on the field, anybody in uniform is a Pittsburgh Pirates employee. So they're going to have that say, and that has evolved over the years. Where in the Max Schumacher in his heyday in the 70s and the 80s was putting teams together, and they would sell players to major league clubs. That system's been gone for a really long time. Yeah, but the Pirates don't ask about that. We have, and that's probably one of my functions, is to be that liaison with the Pirates, with their player personnel department and everything else. But they're not asking us those questions. It's about, hey, how are they in the community? How are they around the facility? Those kinds of things. But even then, they have their own people, embedded in the organization and in the facility. They're paying attention to that.
So if let's say you had a weekend homestand coming up, you couldn't just conveniently lose the guy's plane ticket until Sunday.
We could not. No.
That's too bad.
Sometimes we wish we could, but no, that is not how that's going to work.
Okay. So you've been with the Indians for 33 seasons. This is the 33rd season.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, and not much more before that, you were a 4-year starter for Anderson University's baseball team. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the first thing that occurred to me is, have you ever, in your stint with the Indians, taken batting practice?
Not with the team.
Not with the team.
No.
How about?
We've got indoor hitting cages. There have been times when we do annually an outdoor batting practice for our season ticket holders as a benefit for them, and when it's being set up, I used to go down there and take some swings. I think I would. I'm not sure how well I would recover these days using muscles that it requires to hit a baseball. But when I was younger, sure, I would have thought. I played college baseball. Hey, I could do that. You learn really quickly that, especially at the AAA level, these guys, half of our roster at any point have been in the major leagues at some point in time, and they're a top 1,500 or 2,000 baseball player in the entire world at Victory Field. And you think, they're in the minor leagues, but if you do the math, they're a top 2,000 player in the entire world at a specific skill. And so no, it's but never down there with them. That's their space. We're not down there to infringe on any of that with the players.
Okay. So Anderson, are they the Ravens?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Mm-hmm. I will let you answer this question. How did the Ravens do in your senior year, which would have been 1993?
We were fortunate enough to go to the Division III World Series and finish 5th in the country. So that was it was a great ride. I have great memories of that. Probably I started at IU and played a half a year of baseball down there. And when you come out of high school, everyone has illusions of grandeur, Division I or whatever it's going to be. I could have probably, from a competitive standpoint, played there. It just didn't fit with me. Being away from home, the culture of the program, things like that. So, and Anderson University and Coach Don Brandon, who was legendary, I always like to give him a shout out. He retired 15 years ago, but he had coached for 40 years and followed Carl Erskine, who, after he retired from the Dodgers, came back to Anderson, Indiana. Carl had coached at AU as Anderson College back in the day. Coach Brandon took over in 1970. I may miss that by a year or two. The year I was born, ironically. He had recruited me so vociferously out of high school, and I just thought, hey, back then Anderson was an NAI school. It transitioned to the NCAA while I was there. But I always remembered that, and there was a pretty strong contingent of Northeast Indiana guys playing at Anderson back then in the late 80s and early 90s. And when I was looking for a place to play, he was the first call and said he'd take me with open arms, and had a great experience at AU.
I'm going to assume that at some point in your youth, you thought, hey, it's within the realm of possibility. I could be a major league baseball player. Was that experience in your freshman year, was that the time where you thought to yourself, you know what, maybe I could have a career in the front office of a baseball team?
No, I don't think it was then. I was still too young and dumb to think that far ahead. I mean, I was a baseball player. I question whether at IU, for me, and I don't want to get into the details, but the experience was so poor, I almost wasn't going to play baseball again.
Oh, wow.
But as I look back, now that I'm older and wiser, if I would have stayed at IU, I probably would have ended up being a better baseball player with a better chance to achieve that goal or dream. But I had a better experience and probably better set me up for life going to AU. At least that's the way I look at it. And just to learn leadership skills, being a team captain, having the success that we had as a team, you still had a diverse group of guys coming together, pulling together for a common goal. It's all the things that team sports teach you that I think help prepare you for life, whether that's a life in business or a life in philanthropy, whatever you're going to go on and do in your career. And I got a business management degree, and that's probably what led to that. But there was never a light bulb that said, hey, I'm going to go work in a front office until I finish my senior year. And I didn't get drafted, though I didn't really think I was going to, or nobody said, hey, do you want to play in this free agent league or anything like that? Then I had to go look for a job. And that's what happened in the summer of 1993.
Okay. So that was, after you graduated, reality came and said, you know what? Let's use this degree.
Yeah. And I graduated in early May, and if I'm going to forget the exact timeline, but we played through that tournament to get to the Division III World Series through most of May, if not into early June. So school was over. I graduated. It was baseball, and that's all. And then we lost. We came back home, and I said, now what? So I went back home to Fort Wayne, moved back in with my parents, got a retail gig with a place that I had worked in some summers and some colleges, and then realized retail is not what I wanted to do. Ran into a couple people that had some connections with the Indianapolis Indians, who, if I can say shamelessly, I didn't really know who they were, even though Anderson's only 45 minutes away from Indianapolis. I'd kind of heard of the Indianapolis Indians. I think I knew of Razor Shines and had heard of Busch Stadium because the high school finals were played there, but didn't really understand how the whole ecosystem even worked of Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, and what that business of baseball was like. So it was, but I'd heard about it, wanted to get my foot in the door, and was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to do so.
When you started with an internship in the ticket office in 94, you call it grunt work, but I think you liked it.
Yeah, I gravitated towards it. I can go back 94. There was no technology. Every phone and every ticket order was taken over the phone by hand. Our ticket system was manual. We had racked tickets, meaning every seat and section. Some games, it was a bigger game, we racked more games, otherwise, or more tickets and seats. Otherwise, it was more general admission. It just depended. There was literally cash drawers sitting underneath those racks. We only could do, I think it was 12 or 15 games at a time because we just didn't have room in the ticket office to physically do it. So if you wanted to buy a ticket into for a game 4 months from now, we'd say, hey, can you get back with us later? Or we'd take a hand order and hold it, and they'd say, we'll fulfill this for you later. Just wild and crazy stuff that you would never even think would make sense in this day and age. But it was a great way to learn. That's the way I look at it, with no computers, with no voicemail, everything by hand. You learned it the hard way, but you learned the basics, and you had to master the basics in order to get a job and to move on and move up.
Okay, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. This is the IBJ Podcast.
Taft, Today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
Spring is coming, and that means it's time to bring your backyard back to life. At Indie Grills, we design and build custom outdoor living spaces that turn your patio into the best room of the house. From stamped concrete patios to cozy outdoor fireplaces to fully custom outdoor kitchens built for grilling, gathering, and entertaining, we do it all. We handle everything from design to build, and we're known for doing it one way. Built fast, built right, on time, and on budget. So before summer fills up, start now. Visit indiegrills.com and schedule your outdoor living consultation today. Indie Grills. This is where spring begins.
All right, we're back with this week's episode of the IBJ podcast. In my interview with Randy Lewandowski about his rise to the top of the Indianapolis Indians organization and the principles that have made the club one of the most respected and best attended in all of minor league baseball.
Forgive me, we're going to have to do a lightning round here. With your career with the Indianapolis Indians. But you were assistant ticket manager for 2 years, then director of operations for 9 years.
Yep.
Now that looked like a big jump, going from assistant ticket manager to director of operations.
That was, so people say, where was your break? Well, getting the first internship was the break. I came back for a second internship because the thought of Victory Field was more real to be built. We opened on July 11th, 1996. So if you think I started in 94. But again, the Indians back in those days, Mason, had 7 full-time employees. And then there were like 4 or 5 of us interns. When we moved to Victory Field, it went from 7 to 14. We had what we called the second group of we were all guys that got jobs when we made that move. But for me, yes, I was in the box office, but we had a guy who Memphis was thinking about building a new ballpark, and one of our guys gave them a tour of Victory Field, and he did such a great job that he got a high-level job with Memphis, and so there was a spot open in operations. Mm-hmm. And I got called up to, at the time, it was Cal Burleson, our general manager, and he said, would you be interested in being in operations and running the ballpark? And I mean, I think when you're looking for a break and you're wondering what might be next in your career, I was silly enough, but I said, sure. I walked around with a guy who was leaving for about 3 days. He handed me his keys, and I didn't even know how to get around the ballpark. And Victory Field's not that complicated of a place, but I didn't know. And then magically I was in charge of locking it up and taking care of it, and much simpler times, Mason. But I had to learn and cut my teeth, and I think drive my own path for not only myself, but also for the ballpark, the organization, because at Busch Stadium, we did not take care of the ballpark. It was a Parks Department property. They owned it, and so we just called in work orders. When we moved to Victory Field, one of the core tenets of the deal is that Max Schumacher, who helped cut the deal with the city, is that we were going to keep the revenues, but we were also going to repair and maintain the ballpark. Hence, we say the best compliment we can have is that, wow, the ballpark has really been well taken care of. But we didn't really have a game plan or know a whole lot of what we were doing. So the guy before me, Dan Madden's his name. I'll give Dan a shout out. He's still in baseball down in Clearwater, Florida. Dan had set a lot of, I think, very beginning plans of what to do and how to clean the ballpark and how to keep it secure and all those other things. But to develop those and grow those as we settled in at Victory Field, that is probably where I cut my teeth the most and learned the most, and showed, I think, to Max was still involved, Cal Burleson was still involved, that yeah, I could make some decisions and do pretty well and move things forward for the organization.
Yeah, so you're director of operations for 9 years. Then you were assistant general manager for 8 years. Then you had a 2-year stint as GM from 2014 to 2016 before becoming president and general manager. In terms of rising through the ranks of the company, I think there's something that bears examining for a minute, and you brought it up already. that while the Indians are an affiliate of the Pirates, the Indians organization is essentially a family business.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I misunderstanding that?
It's a weird setup. We're actually owned by shareholders. And we can get into that's a separate question if you want to get into that. But in the mid 50s, there was a stock sale to save the Indians. But even though we're governed by a board of directors, the Schumacher family, Max is considered the patriarch of Indianapolis baseball. He started in 1957, and Max is still alive, though, his health isn't great and hasn't been around the ballpark regularly since 2016, 2017. That shadow in a positive way looms large over the entire franchise because it is a unique setup. We are shareholder owned. The Schumacher family doesn't have a majority, but they've got a plurality, and we're run like a small family business. So it's very unique in that regard.
So when you're coming up and you're taking on more and more responsibility, are you kind of like a member of the family?
I would think so. I don't think Max would call me one of his sons. He has some other sons that Bruce and Mark that work at the ballpark on a full-time basis. Brian works on game nights, and then they have a daughter, Karen, who lives in Florida. But I think that's how when you ask our staff, and it's been more challenging I told you we had 7, then we went to 14. We now have 64 full-time staff members. As we've gotten larger, it's been more challenging to maintain this. But when I was growing up through the organization, that's who you spend most of your time with was your coworkers as opposed to your family. So we became a bit of a big family in the front office, and that happens throughout all of sports and everywhere else because of the grind that you get in and the seasonality that you get into. So I think just in general, the general culture of any front office, but especially ours, and especially in my formative years, is that that was our family. Whether it was the Schumacher family, but it was more about the Indians family or the Victory Field family.
Yeah, the Max Schumacher story is legendary. At one point, I think he was general manager, CEO, president, and chairman all at the same time.
He carried a lot of weight for a lot of years and rubbed a lot of nickels to keep the lights on back in the late 50s, 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. And that's why his vision of Victory Field and the move downtown was the most important move for the franchise, other than the stock sale to save it. But also, I think for the city of Indianapolis and what Victory Field has meant, with the, I don't know if it's 16 or 17 million people that have visited the ballpark since its inception. There were probably some people back in the mid 90s that, why are we going to build a minor league ballpark in downtown Indianapolis? We want to be a major league city. I guess the best advice or the best words that I've got for people is that, well, Randy, it's worked because we're cemented in that southwest corner of downtown. We've seen the city grow up in front of us and now around us and behind us. And that's pretty unique to be in one spot for that long. And we're certainly hopeful and believe we're going to be around for, another 30 years.
So Bruce Schumacher has been in the organization for a while as well, Max's son. He was CEO and chairman until 2024?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. Is there anything in particular that you feel like you can point to as being a great lesson that you learned from either one of those guys?
I would say this. So Max, I worked for Max for a long time. Max was a taskmaster and he worked more hours than anybody I've ever known. And I learned you grind it out. And that is and for Max, and you learn lots of things of what to do and what not to do as you go through life and your career. Max, when he had to make a big decision, he would close the door and make it. For me, I always wanted to be in the room to learn, and I've tried to be a little more inclusive. So that would be one difference, I think. But just to grind it out and to know that you need to take care of your customers and to take care of the people that work for you, I think are some of those things. I would consider Cal Burleson, who has passed away. He passed away in 2022, would be considered my mentor. Cal was named the GM in the late 90s. He was the one that gave me the opportunity to be the director of operations. Cal was handed, I got the keys to the ballpark, but Cal got the keys to the organization as we moved into Victory Field, probably during a tough time. When you move into a new facility, they call it the honeymoon period, and we had it. But then you've got to then really settle in and operate well once, hey, I've been to Victory Field. I don't need to go for my first time. But learned a lot. Cal had been with the organization since the early to mid 70s, was a lifer with the Indians as well. Had to learn how to manage the organization. He had been, in corporate sales and publicity and doing a lot of those things, and then to manage the entire staff. He believed in me and gave me lots of great opportunities, the operations. But when I became the assistant GM, it's because he allowed and wanted me to take on the staff and lead people. And so I would say that's probably been who and what was most formative for me early on in my career were the opportunities that Cal provided. And then he did that with a lot of other young folks on our staff who are still with us today as well. So I would think and that was more of a timing thing and where I was in my career. It's not that I didn't learn a lot from Max, I did, but just the way the keys got and the baton was passed to Cal, that just aligned better. And I would have worked with him more closely on things and stuff to grow and move the organization forward.
Max was famous for walking the perimeter of the park when the gates open, just to scope stuff out, pick up trash, talk to people. Do you do that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm an ops guy at heart. I'm a building guy. I will pick up trash here. If I walk through the convention center on the way here, if I see a wrapper, I'll pick it up for our friends with the CIB and at the convention center. That's just, I think you can't just make decisions from an office. If you have to be out there with your fans, with the people, and to chip in. And even though I've got a really nice title, I still think that if you can do the simple things, those are the things that are building blocks for everybody on our staff. And you pitch in and you help out, and you want to be in touch with what's happening in and around the ballpark, and to be able to touch base and say hello to our game day employees. They're part-time employees, but they are so important to what we do because they're our first touch point with most of our fans and customers. And to get to know them and to build those relationships, those are the things that you tend to cherish as you get older and you look back, to have those kinds of relationships. And you don't have those if you're not out and about in the ballpark.
Got it. What is the difference between being president and general manager and president and CEO? How did your life change?
I'm doing things like this, Mason. I haven't met you before until today.
That's totally my fault.
Well,
we could have done this 3 years ago.
I'm more external. I would tell you that I was behind the scenes, running things and running the staff during those GM and the early president days, and it was very internal. And in the Indians organization, and this probably is more about Max's personality too, was more introverted, and our organization wasn't as external as it probably could or should have been during some of those times. So that's what I've been charged to do with more, is to be external. I'm not dealing with the day-to-day of the staff any longer. Matt Gay is our VP and general manager now. He's in charge of that. I've got another VP and Chief Commercial Officer, Joel Zawacki. That makes up our day-to-day executive team. And Joel then is out and about, and he's our revenue driver and creating partnerships and relationships and things like that. So that's how we're currently structured. It's been a big change for that. Again, it used to be just one person and then a flat organizational structure. And just as we've gotten bigger, it's become more of that pyramid that I think that we desire to have. And that's really been the biggest change, is just getting to be more external, which goes against my personality too, by the way, Mason. I tend to be more introverted as well. But it's something that I've enjoyed, and it's nice to talk about the Indianapolis Indians and Victory Field.
Are you like me, where after you spent 2 or 3 hours walking around talking to people, you are absolutely exhausted?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it's just not my nature, but it's a part of the job, and it's a part of my growth and things that I've got to push myself to do, because at the end of the day, it's what's going to help the organization, and that's what it's ultimately about. Whatever our roles are within the organization, it's to help move us forward and to help us grow, and that's what I've been charged with by our board.
In terms of being a husband and a dad, are you just not as available during baseball season as you would be during the rest of the year?
Yeah, you'll hear when anybody gets up in front to receive an award or whatever else, they're going to thank their staff and they're going to thank their family. And they're both 100% true. To have a wife and to have 2 kids, there's an understanding that we're in the event business. As I said, it's a lifestyle business. It's hard. It takes special people to understand that and adapt to that. I don't know if you ever adapt to it. I think of some buzzwords are work-life balance. I don't believe in a work-life balance. I believe, for me, especially in baseball, it's more of a rhythm and a routine. And to get your family to understand that and to adapt to that is probably what's been important. But if you don't have great support at home, that's I think that's paramount to being successful, because if you don't have it, either your marriage is going to fail, your career is going to fail. But to marry those both up and make it work, it takes some special people involved. And my wife, Christina, is that. And my kids, Alyssa and Sam, have understood that. And Sam was, I joke with him, he's silly enough. He now works for the Indianapolis Indians selling tickets for us. I tried to talk him out of getting into sports because of those very reasons, but it's what he's always wanted to do, and is trying to carve his own path.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is.
So how old are your kids?
You're going to ask me that question. 27 and 25.
Oh, okay. 27, 25. Okay, great.
Out of school. My daughter's married. I've got a couple grandkids. I would say I'm a pretty young grandfather, but that's now where my attention is turned. People say, "What do you love to do?" I love to go spend time with my 3-year-old and 1-year-old granddaughter and grandson. There's nothing better than that.
So 3-year-old is the girl?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the boy.
Yes.
He's younger. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So here's
doing my best to make them left-handed too, Mason.
My mom was left-handed.
Mm.
She always used that as sort of the explanation for her success. So here's the dad-to-dad portion of the interview. So I'm not a grandfather yet. Hopefully that's 30 years away. Here's one of the things I have recently heard about the grandparent-grandchild relationship, right? Which is supposed to be amazing, right? If you're into it. It's not just about being able to play with this toddler or this child without having the responsibility of being a parent, but it's also, in a sense, being able to revisit your child when they were younger. Like, this grandchild is kind of a stand-in for your child, who you get to experience again when they were a kid. Mm-hmm. Is there anything to that?
I would say 100%, because when you're going through being a parent, there's not a playbook for you to follow, right? You're learning along the way, and there's lots of missteps and daily learnings that you make, and gosh, I wish I would have known that, or I would have done this. Well, you feel like you've been through that once already with your kids. I think the most important thing is that then you don't become overbearing, and you find the right way to impart some of that wisdom and knowledge to how you grandparent or to your kids, and not get in the way, but just some of the things you learned. And I'm still learning that too. I mean, my grandkids are only 3 and 1, and hopefully my son has some kids as well, and we can learn through all of that. But I think that's 100% true.
So your daughter had lymphoma when she was 4 years old.
Yep.
And
leukemia.
Sorry. And she obviously fought through the cancer,
yes,
which you got to witness. When you see your granddaughter, does that now take you back to that time at all?
She's getting to be about that right age. We just celebrated Isla's 3rd birthday. Both of our grandkids are March birthdays, so we had a combo birthday party. I haven't thought about it like that till you brought it up, but yeah, I mean, it is things that you want to compartmentalize. They were important. For us. I mean, obviously those are life-changing moments when you get that phone call that says, "Hey, tomorrow morning you need to bring your daughter into the oncology unit," and you're like, "What?" They were hard moments, both for our daughter, but thankfully she doesn't remember a lot of that, just when she got treatments and her age and everything else. But as a couple and as parents and as husband and wife, those are hard, and we both dealt with things differently. The Indians back then were super supportive of when we were going through treatments, but it was 2.5 years of, if I might say, hell when you're dealing with that kind of stuff. The thing is, we made great relationships with other families that were in and out of the hospital and the clinics, with the care staff. It allowed us an opportunity to give back, where I joined the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society board. My wife became a chief fundraiser, where we did our own special event for 10 years and raised almost $1 million. So we took some bad, turned it into some good. It's a life experience that I wouldn't want to wish on anybody, but we're probably better for going through it. in our case, but there are many others that aren't. And we had, I had a niece who was my wife's youngest sister who and they tell us it's not related and there's no genealogy related to this, but developed the same kind of cancer that our daughter had at an older age, and she didn't make it. And so we're fortunate. You feel a little guilty at times, and those are just some of the sobering moments you have in life, and you just have to try to learn with them and deal with them the best you can. And for me, it's compartmentalized. I don't forget about it, but it's in a box in my brain somewhere. And there are moments that it brings it out. But it is something that I think that we learned a lot from.
I am a big fan of compartmentalization.
Yes, it helps a lot.
Yeah. The Indians have a reputation for always being profitable. And I know that we wrote in 2016, the club had been profitable for 39 consecutive years up until that point. Have you continued to be profitable since then, beyond, I'm guessing, the 2020 season?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, every year, that's an expectation anymore. Back in the 70s and the 80s, it was a hope and a wish. And if we had to have a Cincinnati Reds or an exhibition game of some kind to help get us into the black, that is now, I think, the way we're set up in our model is to be an expectation for that to be the case. But yeah, the streak is technically broken because of 2020 and the pandemic when we didn't have a season. But in my mind, I don't count that because we didn't operate. We weren't allowed to operate. We couldn't operate. So, we've kept that streak intact.
So, every year except for 2020. So, I think the way that we've traditionally referred to it is like low seven figures.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yep.
Okay. You said, I think your expected revenue for this year is 20?
Yep.
20 million or so? Okay. When we talk about revenue streams, I can think of a few. You've got tickets. You've got merchandise. You have opportunities for advertisers all over the park. Now, what am I missing?
Concessions.
How does that work? Is there a vendor that does that?
we use a third party in that realm, and then you're just working on different percentages on different areas and things like that. And we've got a great partner with Aramark. They've been with us since almost the very beginning of Victory Field, and it's Mason. It's not overly complicated. There are 5 or 6 primary revenue streams. Our rental business, meaning non-Indians events where we can use Victory Field, has been a boom for us. When we built and developed the Elements Financial Club behind home plate, it's an indoor space, but you can get out front. That's been huge for us because we never used to have a space that was indoors that could accommodate 150 or 200 or 250 people for, let's call it a cocktail party or whatever that realm is, breakfasts. We can now do that. And we're busy probably now another, our events team's going to kill me, but 100, 150 times a year, if not more. And that's an area of growth for us, is to use Victory Field as a non-traditional venue for those conventioneers that are in town. They don't want to necessarily be in a hotel ballroom. Can we do something cool and unique? Well, being at a baseball stadium, whether it's indoor or outdoor, provides lots of great opportunities. And that's been an area of growth for us over the last 5 years.
I'm guessing the biggest stream is the ticket revenue.
Yes.
Is that a situation where you feel like you can kind of pencil a number at the beginning of the year, or do you have less control over that than I would think?
We have great history at the ballpark, and we have an idea that on a early April Tuesday, we're not going to break the bank on that. We just know it. But we have a really good history to know what our attendance is going to be. It's how we set goals for every game, and a lot of that.
Oh, wow. Game to game.
Absolutely.
Wow.
We try to break it down as granularly as we can in all of those areas. But we have great history. We've been there for 29 years, and there's great similarities to what we do and how we do it. Time of year, day of the week, certain promotions, all those things that go into what we do. And so we have a pretty good idea of what we can peg. And then the greatest, I think, denominator that's completely out of our control is Mother Nature. And that's a big factor in how we can perform in a lot of years. Because our baseline is good, it's strong. People know who we are. They know where we are. It is our job to remind them to come visit us at Victory Field once or twice each summer.
Okay. I hear a lot of leadership advice, as you might imagine, in this job. The one thing that really struck me is a basketball one. Dusty May, who's the coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Congratulations, Dusty.
Yes.
He breaks the game down into 4-minute increments. So we try to win each 4 minutes. And that sounds pretty elementary, but I never really thought about it. And I've been trying to apply that to my job.
Mhm.
How can I, like every hour, how can I win each hour? And it's fascinating to me that you guys are really looking at it on a game-to-game basis.
We game to game, and then probably if we get a little more, from a higher level, we call them homestands in baseball. We do them a homestand by homestand, just so we can track those because it gives you an opportunity. The weather can change so quickly. Weather's not our biggest. I mean, it's a challenge, but it's not our overall crutch. We know what we're going to end up doing. We're going to have just as many good days as bad days from that perspective, weather-wise. But yeah, we just like to make sure that we can track it, know how we're doing, and by the time we get to the middle of the summer, we have a pretty good idea of how we're going to end up.
So real quick, here's what I understand about the long-term agreements that really matter to the health of the ball club. Indians have extended their affiliation with the Pirates through, is it still 2030?
It is.
Okay.
And that's a whole different deal that we haven't dabbled into. But Major League Baseball, we are now a direct. We're not a. We fit under the Major League Baseball umbrella. It didn't used to be that. It's pre-pandemic. That is, the pandemic had nothing to do with it. It was a contractual timing thing where we used to be a member with a minor league baseball organization that had the contract with Major League Baseball. We have a direct license agreement with Major League Baseball, and then they assign us an affiliation for 10 years, and it's been with the Pirates from 21 through 2030.
Okay. Indians have a lease with the city's capital improvement board on Victory Field to occupy through, is it still 2035?
Yes.
Okay. And the deal is, you don't pay rent, but you continue to cover all the maintenance, repairs, and operational expenses.
Correct.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're in pretty good position right now.
We are. It's still a 30-year-old facility. The CIB has been a great partner. Early on, we had to prove that we could manage it and run it. Those days have since passed. We've shown that we can. They're involved if we have major infrastructure improvements. That's a bit of how our deal is structured.
What kind of improvement would that be?
Oh gosh, if it's we're going to replace the seats here at the end of the season. They're the original seats in the seating bowl, so we're going to partner on that.
Partner meaning you share the cost.
Yes.
Okay.
If there's anything more directly infrastructure related, like concrete or piping, that's going to be. If you can't turn it upside down and it's not going to move, that's going to be the CIB's responsibility. If it's revenue generating, we'll sometimes seek some assistance, but more than likely that's going to be our nickel.
Right. So like
in regards to that.
Signage boards, for example.
But I even mean more like as we've developed the ballpark, we've added spaces. When Victory Field opened, it was 15,500. We've reduced that capacity because in today's sports and entertainment world, people want place. They don't just want a green stadium seat to sit in. There are some people who just want that, but they want amenities, food and beverage. What can go? That's why we developed the Elements Financial Club. We've got the Yingling Landing down our left field line. We've enhanced our picnic areas. All of those things, we've reduced seating capacity to provide greater and or better experiences for fans at games. And as we've done that, we're okay reducing our capacity in order to enhance those amenities.
Here's a scenario for you. Let's say the Pirates call one day and say, we want to call somebody up.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, that's you. We want to call you up. We want you to come work for the Pirates. Would you want to do it? Or are you happy where you are?
I've always been happy where I'm at. When I was young, I would have probably poked my head around and looked around, both here locally and nationally. At this point, I mean, I'm a Midwest guy. I was born in Chicago, grew up in Fort Wayne, have lived in Indy. It would take a lot at this point in time for me to want to go somewhere else. And it wouldn't be, I don't think it would be an equivalent position, even though I would say that I think I could probably do it. You're just adding some zeros to what we do, but the processes, the mantra, the thought, everything that you do would be very similar or the same. But no, I've come to love Indianapolis. I love the Indianapolis Indians. I love Victory Field, and I've got family here, as we've talked about, and that would be very, very hard to get pulled away from.
All right. Even the CEO job.
Yeah. For me, it's never been about when you're young, yes, you want titles. And we talk about this with our young people. But at the end of the day, it's, are you contributing and in a positive way to an organization that is growing, that has life, that has energy. And we have new energy. We haven't talked about this yet, but we just rebranded and we have a new look. After 33 years, we have a new look. It's a new era for the Indianapolis Indians, and it's exciting to be a part of that. There was a lot of work that went into that. And so I'm energized, and that's a re-energization. And, when you've been at some place for 30 some years, you might think, oh, no, I'm not allowed to coast. When I was younger, I was the one that pushed, and now I'm the one being pushed to do new and different and bigger and better things. And for that to flip and to be a part of that, that's been fun. And it's what I know, it's what I love, and I don't see that changing.
All right. Well, thanks for making the time.
You bet. Thank you, Mason. Appreciate it.
My thanks again to Randy Lewandowski. And folks, before you get on with the rest of your week, there are a few stories in this week's edition of IBJ I want to draw to your attention. First up, data centers that check certain boxes and bring in community investment are winning favor from Indianapolis economic development officials and city leaders, but haven't found footing among passionate, organized communities. After an attack on a city-county councilor related to his vote on a data center project, Taylor Wooten examines the disconnect. Also in this week's issue, Dave Lindquist digs into Cafe Patachou's latest plans to expand. And Mickey Shuri looks ahead to how downtown will change between now and hosting the 2028 Women's Final Four. And again, you can find these stories in the latest print edition of IBJ or online at IBJ.com. I will say it is quite a bit easier to access all the latest business news and all of IBJ's data on Central Indiana's business, community, and economy if you're a subscriber. We're running a promotion right now that gives you complete access for $1 per week, just 3 months, just to get a sense of how valuable and original our content is. Just go to IBJ.com and click on the subscribe button. And thanks again for making time this week for the IBJ podcast. I'm Mason King. Hang in there, everybody. We'll be back again next week.
Get a behind-the-scenes look at Indiana's most influential leaders. On Business and Beyond, we go beyond titles and resumes to explore the personal stories, pivotal moments, and hard-won lessons that shape Hoosier leadership. Hear from the people driving Indiana forward in their own words. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcast or at ibjpodcasts.com.
Want to give your team a real edge? The IBJ Group Plan delivers unlimited access to every story, every report, every video from IBJ and Inside Indiana Business for your whole team. Cover some or all of your employees with one simple payment. The more you add, the more you save. It's smart, it's flexible, and it saves you up to 30% off the standard rate. Already have IBJ subscribers in your office? Group up and save big. Learn more and get started now at ibj.com/group-plan.